The portrait. Amelia had always been drawn to old, peculiar things. Antique shops and flea markets were her favorite places to explore. On a rainy autumn afternoon, she stumbled upon a tiny, dimly lit shop hidden at the end of a narrow alleyway. Its wooden sign said, "Curiosities and Oddities," swayed in the wind as if urging her to enter. The bell above the door chimed as Amelia stepped into a world frozen in time, is what it seemed at least. Dust-covered artifacts lined the shelves, and the air was thick with the scent of musty books and aged wood. She moved deeper into the shop, her eyes fixated on a tarnished brass frame that held an exceptionally eerie painting. The portrait depicted a young woman, her porcelain skin contrasting sharply with the darkness of her surroundings. Her eyes were deep pools of obsidian, seeming to follow Amelia's every move. The woman's lips curved into a faint, sinister smile that sent shivers down Amelia's spine. The longer she stared, the more she became entranced by the portrait's unsettling charm. An old shopkeeper appeared from behind a heavy velvet curtain, his hunched figure casting long shadows across the room. "Ah, I see you found our most peculiar piece," he rasped, his voice like the creaking of ancient floorboards. Amelia's fingers traced the edge of the frame, and she glanced at the shopkeeper. "Who is she?" The shopkeeper's eyes gleamed with a mix of curiosity and caution. "That, my dear lady, is Lady Seraphina Hawthorne. Legend has it that the portrait was painted by a tormented artist who was consumed by his own darkness. He believed the painting held the power to trap souls." Amelia chuckled nervously, not sure if the shopkeeper was spinning a tale to enhance the portrait's mystique. "And what does the painting do? Steal souls, you say?" The shopkeeper leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Some say that if you stare into her eyes long enough, Lady Seraphina can read your deepest fears and desires. Those who have spent too long under her gaze have disappeared without a trace." Amelia's skepticism wavered. As unsettling as the story was, she couldn't deny the strange allure of the painting. "How much does it cost?" The shopkeeper's crooked smile widened. "For you, my dear, I sense a connection. Let's say $1,000. Amelia hesitated, her gaze locked onto the portrait. She didn't fully believe the shopkeeper's tale, but the thought of owning such an uncanny piece intrigued her. With a mixture of apprehension and excitement, she agreed to the price. That night, as the moon cast an eerie glow through her window, Amelia hung the portrait in her living room. She arranged dim candlelight around it, emphasizing the painting's haunting beauty. She settled on the couch, unable to tear her eyes away from Lady Seraphina's entrancing stare. Hours passed, the room grew colder, and the flames of the candles flickered. Amelia felt a strange sensation, as though the darkness within the painting was seeping into her own soul. Her heart raced, and the portrait's smile seemed to deepen, mocking her vulnerability. A sudden gust of wind extinguished the candles, plunging the room into an impenetrable darkness. Panic gripped Amelia as she fumbled her phone, desperate for light. As the screen illuminated the room, she froze. The painting had changed. Lady Seraphina's once delicate smile had transformed into a wicked grin, her eyes now emanating an otherworldly, malevolent light. Amelia's pulse quickened and she stumbled backwards, her heart pounding against her ribcage. A haunting whisper echoed through the room, soft yet chillingly clear. "I know what you fear, Amelia." How do you know my name?" Amelia stammered. The whisper grew louder, swirling around her like a chilling wind. "Your deepest fears, your hidden desires, I see them all. I am the vessel of souls, the revealer of truths. Terror paralyzed Amelia as she realized the truth of the shopkeeper's tale. Lady Seraphina had indeed trapped her within her gaze, delving into the depths of her soul. Tears welled in her eyes as she felt her sense of self unraveling, her very essence being drawn into the portrait. With every passing moment, Amelia's surroundings blurred, merging with the painting's dark canvas. She screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the void. And then, in a final heart-wrenching instant, nobody ever heard of her again, leaving behind an empty room and a whispering portrait. Story 2: The Forgotten Lighthouse. On a desolate stretch of coastline, a solitary lighthouse stood as a sentinel against the dark. Its once vibrant red and white stripes had faded to a weathered gray, and the windows stared out like hollow eyes onto the crashing waves below. Local legends whispered that the lighthouse was cursed, its keeper having vanished without a trace years ago. Despite the tales of eerie sounds and mysterious shadows, a group of thrill-seeking friends decided to spend a night within its decaying walls. As night fell, the wind howled through the gaps in the lighthouse, a mournful wail that seemed to echo the laments of the past. The friends huddled together in the main chamber, their flashlights casting flickering shadows on the walls. The atmosphere grew tense as the hours passed, the darkness outside pressing in. One by one, their flashlights began to flicker and die. Panic set in as they found themselves surrounded by impenetrable darkness. Just as fear began to claw at their hearts, a dim glow emerged from the upper levels of the lighthouse. A soft, ghastly light radiated from the spiral staircase. Their friends exchanged hesitant glances, torn between the desire to flee and the allure of uncovering the source of the light. Driven by a mix of curiosity and trepidation, they ascended the staircase, each step creaking under their weight. The air grew colder with every floor they climbed, and a sense of foreboding settled over them like a heavy shroud. At the top of the staircase, they entered the lantern room. The once gleaming glass had dulled with age, and the lantern itself cast a feeble light that barely reached beyond the room. A voice, soft and sorrowful, broke through the resilience. "I've been waiting." Startled, the friends turned to see a figure standing in the corner of the room, its form translucent and ethereal. It was the lighthouse keeper. "You've come to bear witness," the keeper continued, "to hear my tale and to share my burden." The friends listened as the keeper's story unfolded, a story of isolation and despair, of a man consumed by his duty to guide ships safely. The keeper sought solace in dark rituals that summoned a presence from the other side. The rituals succeeded, but the entity that answered was not the companion the keeper had hoped for. The keeper's story concluded. The lantern's light began to flicker violently. Shadows writhed on the walls, and the room grew colder, the air thick with the weight of the entity's presence. Realizing the danger they were in, the friends turned to flee, and just in time, they did. Gasping for breath, they scrambled to their feet and stumbled out of the lighthouse, their hearts pounding with a mix of terror and relief. But who would believe them? Story 3: The Ancient Forest. In the heart of the ancient forest, an old well stood, its stone walls etched with a cryptic symbol. Locals spoke of its malevolent power, warning travelers to stay far away. But curiosity got the better of a young wanderer we heard who'd ventured too close. One moonlit night, drawn by whispers on the wind, the wanderer approached the well. The air grew colder, and a sense of unease settled in their bones. Gazing into its depths, they saw a glimmer of movement, a reflection, not their own. As they peered closer, a pale, bony hand shot up from the darkness, grabbing the wrist with an iron grip. Panic surged as a skeletal figure pulled itself out of the well, its hollow eyes fixed on the Wanderer. The Wanderer tried to pull away, but the grip tightened, fingers like ice against their skin. The skeletal figure extended its other hand, revealing a tarnished scale. With each heartbeat, the Wanderer's strength waned, their life force draining into the creature's grasp. Desperation gave way to resignation, and as their vision blurred, a ghostly smile touched the creature's lips. As the last ounce of life left the Wanderer, the skeletal figure released its grip, disappearing back into the well. The forest fell silent once more, the moonlight casting eerie shadows over the scene, the body being found for dead the next day.